Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Blues Open House Forward. We are live from Club 111 within St Andrews at Knighthead Park, streaming, of course, live on Blues Plus via YouTube, Facebook, and the official Blues app as well. My name is Ellen Ellard. I am one of the hosts of the club's new weekly magazine show, Blue Rising, and it is a real pleasure to be your host for this evening's event. Before we start the evening, important, as always, to cover some housekeeping messages. For those here in the room this evening, there are no fire alarm tests planned, so if you do hear an alarm, please familiarise yourself with the nearest exit and make your way outside as quickly and calmly as possible. Our board and senior leadership team will aim to answer as many of your questions as possible live here tonight. So should you want to submit a question, please can we ask that you keep your questions both respectful and relevant to the topics that we are discussing this evening. As well as our guests here with us in Club 111, all Blues fans can submit their questions to our panel this evening exclusively via the official app. And with more than 75,000 of you having already subscribed, I'm sure that very few of you haven't yet experienced all the benefits. But should you be one of the few who hasn't, then you can download it via the Apple Store or Google Play now. Once you've done that, you can send us your questions and we'll put as many of them as possible to our panel later on this evening. Right, on with this evening's event, and Blues Open House is an important part of the commitment that we have made to involve all supporters in what is happening at your club. The first open house in November of 2023 was called Transformation. The second was called Ambition, with the third being Growth. You can see tonight our topic is Forward. Each one captured a moment in time of the journey that the club has embarked on under the ownership of Knighthead. Tonight's theme is Forward, and to get the evening started, I'm pleased to introduce you to this evening's presenters. First up, club CEO and, of course, Blues superfan Jeremy Dale. He will be followed by Nick Smith, who is synonymous with the transformation of the infrastructure here at Blues, and of course, something that's on the tip of everyone's tongue at the minute, the new stadium. Then we are delighted to have our chairman, Tom Wagner, with us this evening, who will share his perspectives on all things related to the Sports Quarter, the new stadium, and of course, the future of our club. There will then be an extended Q&A session that I know you're all looking forward to. And in addition to all of that, we have members of our club's senior leadership team here with us tonight, including our men's first team manager, Chris Davies. They are all looking forward to talking with you at the end of the formal part of this open house this evening as well. Our women's team manager, Amy Merrick, sends her apologies for not attending this evening. It is for a very good reason, though, as she is taking part in her brother's wedding celebration. So we send our best wishes to Amy and, of course, her family as well. Before we get things started and I invite Jeremy to the stage, here is a short video to remind everyone what has happened since the last time we met. Well, as you can see, history being made wherever you look at the club. It's time now to welcome to the stage Birmingham City CEO Jeremy Dale.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's an absolute dream come true for me to be able to have the best job in the world. As many of you know me, I'm a blues fan from birth, and so for Knighthead to ask me to do this is, the greatest honour I could imagine. It's also an absolute privilege to work alongside a fabulous team of people who come each day to make this club better. But it's also the fans. To serve you, the fans, to stand shoulder to shoulder with you in the away end at Preston last night on a cold, damp evening. That's the joy, and that's what this club and all of the management and ownership really feel really important about. What I want to do tonight is to look at the journey we're on with Knighthead. It's been just over 2 years since Knighthead took control, and we want to show you the progress we're making. So we need to look up, lift our eyes and look at what we have done in the last 2 years, but also where we're going for the next 5 or 10. So in a few days' time, we are going to enter our 150th anniversary month. And we can look back at the archives and some of the greyed out pictures. But for me, what is far more important is the fact that it's almost like 150 years in, this is where the real story starts. I've never been more optimistic about the future for our club. We've shared something with you before about our 2030 ambition, and that has the fans at the heart of everything that we do. We talk about it in terms of 4 pillars: football, commercial, infrastructure, and foundation. We want to compete with the very best at football, but in order to do that, we have to turn ourselves into a commercial powerhouse. We always say every great brand has an iconic home. And the infrastructure and how we've changed St Andrews, but more importantly, what the future of the sports quarter is going to bring, is really exciting for us. But we also know the responsibilities that we as a football club have in our communities. And so that's why we always say Blues is family. And, this football club is more than football. So I'm going to give you a rapid-fire, whiz-stop tour of our progress that we've made since we last spoke to you in November. From a football point of view, last season, the records were obliterated by the men's team. We went to Wembley, and whilst the result wasn't what we wanted, it was really important for us because we took over 50,000 Blue Noses there, and at the moment that our last ticket was sold, there were still 26,000 people on the phone lines trying to buy a ticket. So when people say, how are you going to fill 62,000-seater stadium? We saw it that day. And earlier on, we know 75,000 people downloaded our app, so that fills it as well. We're not going to have a problem. We so wanted it to be a double promotion season, so nearly, in the last few minutes, we got close. But that final title decider was amazing because it was the first time we've set anything like this and had over 10,000 fans cheering on our women's team. That was a remarkable occasion. We also secured Category 1 status for our academy, and that is fundamentally important to ensure that we are developing this right pathway and pipeline of talent for our football team. In the summer, we made 12 signings for the men's team and 8 for the women's team and strengthened our squads. And we know that on a football basis, our next step is to be in the top tier for both the men's and the women's team, the Premier League and WSL 1. So that's kind of football, but let's look at some of the things behind it in terms of commercial and how this is funding our growth. I think what you've heard from Tom and from, on many occasions is that the greatest determinant of success on the pitch is going to be revenue. So let's show you a little glimpse about what our revenues have looked like. If you look at the years before Knighthead, they were pretty constant with a dip during COVID. But if you look what's happened in the 3 years since Knighthead took over, we're going to generate more revenue than any other club has done in championship history outside the parachute payments. And all of that is helping us invest in the team on the pitch. So let's look at some of the things which have been behind that. If you look at our average league attendances, we were tracking about 15,000, 16,000 when the stadium had 2 of the tiers closed. That's now grown so that we're selling out every game this season so far. A 70% increase from what it was before. And for that, we want to thank all of you because you're the ones who are making it a possibility. And what we know is more fans equals more attention, equals more momentum for us as a club. If you look at food and beverage sales, I know many fans would say to me, we used to turn up at 3 minutes to kick off so that we didn't put any more money into our previous owners' pockets. Let's show you what's happened to F&B sales in the period of time since. 5x what they were. Thank you again for that. If you look at hospitality sales, we built some new lounges. We've sold and increased the number of hospitality seats we're selling each year. And we're now 2x what we were before. Thank you for those. And then retail merch. I often get some messages from some fans going, please, 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 no more retro shirts. I can't afford to keep buying the retro shirts. Look what's happened to our retail sales. Nearly 5 times what they were before Knighthead took over. This is the level of transformation. This is the level of commercial growth which is coming to fuel the growth at the club. But one of the biggest areas that we've driven revenue increases from are our commercial partners. Because of the newfound optimism and the journey to the Sports Quarter, we now boast an enviable list of blue chip partners, which the envy of everyone in the Championship and some of the Premier League teams as well. And one of the things which has driven this has been the increased focus on social media. So if you look at this chart was in 22-23, the year before we took over, and you can see all of the clubs and what their social media impressions were. Birmingham City ranked 35th. The club wasn't very good at communicating back then. Let's show you what's happened, and this is the current league table for social media impressions this season. And that's what's happened to our club. We're now ahead of 6 Premier League clubs, driving 15th in the social media league table. And that's been fundamentally important to be able to give the visibility to our commercial partners so that they want to be with us. But one of the things which we've been very conscious about is that we always said we weren't going to grow commercial revenue by putting up large hikes in prices at the detriment and squeezing our fans. So we always look at what our season ticket prices are compared to our comparable teams. And if you look in the Championship at the lowest annual renewable season ticket price, we're 5th in the Championship, offering affordable football. And that's a fundamental principle which you'll hear us talk about later, about a principle for the future and who we are. We love the fans, we love the atmosphere, we love our hardcore fans, and we're never going to lose their trust by doing excessive price increases. We also look at making sure our F&B offerings are some of the most affordable, and we're probably 2nd in our region. The EB is our early bird prices, and so you can see competitive prices compared to most of the teams in this region. But we always know there's more we can do, and there's more we're always trying to do to make the matchday experience even better, trying to get shorter queues, although they are much shorter than they were at the start of the season. On-street parking is a focus for us, as is traffic and transport. So these are things which we're working on, and you are going to hear further announcements about what we're doing in all of these areas in the coming weeks and games. So I do hope you see that we are on our way to being a commercial powerhouse, but we're not resting. There's always more we can do. Let's turn to infrastructure. Now, I want to show you a shocking image which may turn your stomachs. That was 2 years ago. Who remembers that? That was literally 2 short years ago in the summer of 23. Now, when we bring prospective commercial partners to the stadium and they look at it, the beautiful blue bowl, the lush green grass, they look at it and they see that we're a Premier League ready team. The transformation has been huge thanks to the investment from Knighthead. But the investment has also been in the fan areas. If you look at the fan areas at the stadium, since we last met, we've opened the fan park, which was opened in December last year. The fan zone in the front of the Kop with the new temporary roof. I asked Nick Smith for a temporary roof, which I could take down and be able to use as car park for most of the, in the week. Nick tells me it's temporary. It just needs 10 people, 2 days to do it. And that classifies as temporary for planning purposes. Please don't say that to the council. We've also extended into the Tilton Kop corner and created another fan area because those were getting too busy. And then we all heard the request for a statue to our greatest ever player. And that has now become the social media backdrop to so many of our fans' posts. But it's not just about what's happened at the stadium, it's about the Knighthead Performance Centre as well. There's been huge investment there to make sure that the training ground for our women's team and for our academy is absolutely first class. But having said all of that, we know we're not perfect. And some of the challenges with our current stadium is, if you like, some of the things which are just inherently built into the stadium. We wish we could do more with the washrooms. We now have hot water into every area, but it is a challenge, the water and and some of those areas in the stadium. But we're working hard to try and get those as best as we can. But that's what the sports quarter is ultimately going to solve. It would be remiss of us not to talk about the foundation, because the foundation has been fundamentally important in getting central government support to unlock the sports quarter through the transport investment. Some of the people who I am so proud of are our foundation coaches. Tom and I spent this afternoon at one of the local schools, and seeing the work that they are doing to inspire the young people of our city is really commendable. I think some of you will have heard me talk about Ballinwood Academy and how we put 2 coaches into there and the transformation they've had. A few months ago, Ballinwood told us they'd received their latest report about their standings in the league tables of schools across the country. So if you imagine there's 100 schools, there's obviously a lot more, but they put them all into these percentiles. Ballinwood used to be 72nd, in that percentile. In the last year, they have improved to be in the 21st percentile and have been announced as the 5th most improved school in the whole of the country. And that's huge. And so the impact of our coaches in there has been significant. We're now in 4 academy schools across the city, and those are all having an impact. And one of the things I'm most proud of is our players, because our players go into the schools and they saw this. And so what they said was that they wanted a percentage of their win bonus to go to the foundation. And Craig tells me that's unheard of in football. He's never known that to happen at any other club. That's why this club is special, because people see that we're a family club and we care and we want to put back into our communities. When Trevor passed, the Trevor Francis Memorial Committee wanted to make sure that there was something lasting to Trevor's memory rather than just, bronze and stone, but something which could inspire the young kids in the community. And so Jasper arranged a memorial concert in Trevor's name, and they raised £120,000. And that's gone on to fund the Trevor Francis Schools Cup, the final of which takes place at St Andrews. And if you look at this picture and just look at the faces on the girls there when the final whistle went and they won the tournament, that shows what gracing the turf at St Andrews can mean to people and how it inspires them. And again, that was with great support as well from the University of Birmingham, who really supported us and sponsored that programme as well. We also did the same thing for the Primary Schools Cup, and we had over 1,000 children from across the city, boys and girls, competing in that trophy. We take the players out into the schools, and they inspire learning through the lens of football. We took Hope to Arc Victoria, and she inspired girls who would never have been given the chance to play football before. We also took Craig. He got far too competitive with a group of 13-year-olds, and I think he deserved a yellow card. And then we have a pan-disability football, and this is one of my favourite pictures on the right. This is our goalkeeper, and he throws himself all over the place and makes these saves. But because of his disability, he ends up having to walk off supported by a stick and by a teammate. And that shows the unity that we are at a club. We all wear the Blues badge. We launched some early emerging talent centres for some young girls, and 15 of them have now progressed to our pre-academy programme. And then, of course, we hold Blue Nose Day, and we raised money to be able to provide 11,500 gifts for the kids known to Birmingham Children's Trust. It's huge what the foundation has done. And when Knighthead took over, we set out some bold ambitions. At the time, we had 21 coaches and we helped 3,207 people in the city. In the first year that grew, in the year just finished, we helped more than 34,000 people in the city. And the ambitions for this year blow my mind in terms of trying to impact 61,000 people across the city. And when we went to Arc Victoria and we told them that we were giving them some tickets to come to a game, this was the face of one of the young men. This is the impact that we can have on people by lending a hand to those who are a bit more in need. But we know there's always more that we can do, and we strive to do that every day. Let's turn now to the fans. First of all, I want to say a huge thank you. I will never, ever forget Mansfield. And, you know, being able to sort of be on the pitch and see 28,000 Blues fans with these scarves, whirling them around the head. I remember when we first came down at 5 minutes to 3, I'm standing next to Tom, and he FaceTimes Tom Brady. And Tom Brady is literally there with his hands on his head going, "Crikey, what is going on there?" And when you've got a 7-time Super Bowl winner being amazed at the noise and the vibrancy of her fans, that says something. I know the thank you also comes from all of the board, from Tom and Andrew are here, but also from Kyle and Matt. And whilst Knighthead have invested significantly in the club, it's not lost on us that you've invested significantly as well. You've attended more games, you turn up earlier. If you can turn up even earlier, that would be appreciated. Club shop sales, hospitality sales, stadium tours, following us on social media. Every time someone follows us and likes us on social media, that all keeps kicking up our revenues, supporting our commercial partners, and you've also invested us with your time. And there's probably no greater demonstration of how you've invested your time with us than this chart. This is a map which shows every place that someone has travelled to come to be at St Andrews across the country. Look at our presence across the country. Sorry, I'm standing in front of it. Look at the presence, of our country. It is literally, we are nationwide, and we know others travel further. This year, every 25-26 league game has been sold out. The support has been amazing. And I was talking to Chris earlier, and how much that support means to him and the team is huge. And let me try and explain this. The noise in our stadium is fundamentally important, not just for our players, but also in attracting new commercial partners. This was a quote from David Beckham on the night when we played Wrexham. That night, the noise, the intensity, the incredible vibe in the ground enabled us to close 3 commercial partners because they were with us in the alliance. They saw the noise, they saw the vibrancy, they saw where this club was going, and they agreed to join us on that journey that night. All helps us. So the noise is fundamentally important. We are growing our fan base, and the docuseries has certainly increased our global attention. And for the stars of the show, Pat and Mavis, supported admirably by Tom Brady, it has brought a newfound, appeal to the club. And as a result of that, we often get images like this being sent to us. We've got new fans across the world. But what we always recognise is that we have to strive to put our long-term, loyal, home-based fans first. And that is what we always try and do. But there are more things that I would ask of you. And there are a few things. So let me make those requests, please. First of all, in regard to fan behaviour, be loud, be hostile, but please don't cross the line. When we're trying to get the FA to bring England under 21 games and Lionesses games here, when we're trying to get extra tickets for away fans, when there is, problems and misbehaviour, that makes all of those things harder. So please, 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 be loud, be hostile, but don't cross the line. And we all know where that line is. One of the key areas for that is Arthur's area. We want to make sure there's an environment where parents feel comfortable to bring their young children. We need to make sure that that area is a safe zone for our young fans because they're the future, they're the next generation of our fans. The next request I have of you relates to 12,000 fans who are on our season ticket wait list. They can't get to the games they want because we haven't got a big enough stadium. When our season ticket holders have got tickets and you can't come, please use Ticket Exchange. We give you money back for doing that. And it means every seat can get filled. And those 12,000 fans who want to come to every game, let's give them a chance to be able to come. Next request, support our women's team. Our women's team are doing fabulously. They're scoring freely. They're riding high in the league. Please, please, please support the women's team. And also support our commercial partners. All of our partners look at the data that they have of growing customers in and around the Birmingham area. So if you do want to go and buy a car, go and look at the Virtue showrooms. Tell them you're a Blues fan. Tell them you're coming in for there. This all helps us get more commercial revenue. And then finally, as I wrap up, I do want to just sort of talk to you about our team, because our team is a fabulous team which has grown and we're getting, increased quality all the time. This, I think, is the best team photo of any football club this season. This is, I think it's 582 people, from our academy kids to our first team players to all of our staff to the management team and our board members. This is the unity of what this team is, all of us together. I do want to introduce a few new senior recruits to you. We have Dr. Jennifer Lace as our Chief of Staff for the football. We have Claire Avery, who's joined us from Nottingham Forest with previous experience at Everton. So you can see we're getting in Premier League experience. Jonathan Grimes and Stephen Haynes have joined us on the commercial side of the business from a tech background of Microsoft and Facebook. Lynn O'Riordan has seen the light and joined us from the dark side. And is doing a fabulous job for us. Charlotte Haller has joined us in our conference and events team, joined us from the Grand Hotel. Ben Elkington has joined us from Leicester with Nike experience. He started this week. He's heading up retail. Rich Carpenter has joined us from Ipswich and is our Director of Operations. I think we probably have the best groundsman in the country. Chris Long joined us from Leicester, having won 2 Ground of the Year awards in his previous 3 seasons. Nick Venables and Kelly Harris Herman, who's now our Stadium Facilities Manager. And so we've got some really strong talent which has come in and helped to build out the team. But the team also includes Knighthead. Knighthead are not just owners. They are fundamentally involved in our business every single day. Tom, Andrew, Matt, Kyle, and a broader team. And we should realise just how blessed we are to have them as our owners, and I'm sure you are. I've said this before many times, but I honestly believe it. We have the very best owners in football, and you're going to see that more in the next few minutes as I hand across to Nick. But let me leave you with Tom's quote from that Mansfield game, when he said, "There's something special happening here. This isn't the best day we will have together. We've only just started." And so as I hand back to Nick, he's going to tell you a little bit more about what that real future holds. So I hope you see that We've built a lot of those foundations. We're growing the commercial powerhouse, and we should all lift up our eyes and smile at what lies ahead of us. Thank you ever so much.
Jeremy, thank you. Looking forward to hearing more from you, of course, later on in our Q&A. Now time for our next presenter and another very familiar face to Blues fans. Throughout the year, the club issues walk and talk videos, and these are very popular with our next presenter because they always give insights into what's going on behind the scenes to improve the experiences of our supporters, players and club staff whenever they enter St Andrews at Knighthead Park. This evening, he will speak on what's been on everyone's mind, of course, the new Blues Stadium. So please welcome Nick Smith.
Thanks, Ellen. Thanks, Jeremy, and good evening, beautiful Blue Noses. Lovely to see you again. I'm super excited to be here. We got lots to talk about, but I do feel a little bit like a dad on Christmas Eve because for those of you that buy that special present for your loved one and you really want to tell them, but you can't show them yet till tomorrow morning, it's a little bit like that for me tonight. I'm going to talk a lot about the process, the methodology that we went through with our stadium and architects, but I just can't show you that picture just yet. Yeah. So just wanted to put that out there if you're all expecting to see the stadium design tonight. So just going back to context of the Sports Quarter. So Knighthead have been acquiring about 135 acres worth of land. That's been kind of put out public. And on that site, at the moment, we are looking to build and develop a 60,000-seat stadium. I'll talk a lot about that, actually, in terms of numbers and design. The Blues Foundation, this is part of us pulling our whole club back together. So one campus model, everybody onto the same site. So Blues Foundation, an absolute world-class, world-best elite training center for professional men, professional women, boys and girls academies. A 10,000-seat women's stadium. Given the timing, we might be the first purpose-built women's stadium with the ability to grow to 15,000. Purpose-built women's stadium in the country, depending on how we get on with planning and the speed of build, but our intention is to do that. 18,000-seat arena, and then 3 million square foot worth of mixed-use development, hotels, residential, commercial, shops, etc. So that's the context of the Sports Quarter. So the first asset that we've gone out to tender on was the stadium. We started that process back in July, and we've been running it through. And I want to talk to you quite a lot around how we've gone about that, and the methodology that we've gone, because a lot of what we did represented you in order to get to the design, what you want in that stadium. So we started, as I said, back in July with a design tender process, and we had 13 of the best architects in the world. And this is real testament to the ambition and the story and the momentum that Tom and the Knighthead team have created, that we got basically the best pilots in the Top Gun Academy. The best architects in the world applied to kind of join our process. So we then had to go through a really tough bidding process of getting from 13 down to 5. And then again, what we did was, testament to Tom and the approach, was we went into a paid competition with 5 architect companies. This was a masterstroke, and the level of resources, effort, and input that these architect companies put in to the whole tender and to the whole design process was simply sensational. And so from 5, we had to make a real tough decision to get down to 3. And then Tom announced in the last 2 days ago now, I think, yesterday or Tuesday, the winner of that was Heatherwick Design Studios, a collaboration with Manica and Stephen Knight. And this team was just, honestly, as I said, it's like Christmas Eve for me. I wish I could show you what they produced for us in the competition. It is an outstanding team that we can't wait to work with. And these we got to work with these guys for the next 5 years. So you really want to have a strong partnership with them. And we really felt that connection in all the presentations. But as part of that decision panel, Tom led a decision group that of about 6 individuals that ultimately made the decision, but they were supported by a technical team. One thing having a beautiful picture, the other thing is, can you build that beautiful picture? And so we had a technical team that were supporting us. This is the group of people. If you can change the slide. So this is the support group that we had with us, of technical experts helping us in terms of the submissions but in addition to the team that was supporting us, we set out these evaluation criteria, which is pretty key. One is the brief compliance. So we developed as a club a design brief that sets out what we believe that you will require and you will want as a fan base and a fan group. So did the designs comply with that brief? The vision we set out, I'm going to read that through for you in a second. The design excellence, was it innovative, was it original, and then through a bunch of the other criteria that we had in there. Functionality, user experiences, did media cross with players, which you don't want, with fans crossing over with various players, etc., etc. So, there's a lot of kind of technical involvement in that stadium that we're already into the detail of developing. And then obviously at the end we've got commercial fees that we needed to consider as we go through. So I wanted to take you through some of those design principles that we set out for the architects. This is what we asked them as part of that detailed design brief to follow in order to develop the design that they have done to win the competition. So we wanted a global destination for sport and media, okay? That is our ambition. That's where we want to sit in football. That's what we want the stadium to be able to achieve. Okay, and it's very specific in its request of sport, media, and entertainment, because entertainment in a multi-purpose stadium is going to be key, because we're going to probably run as many events as we do play football games in the stadium. And then media is such a huge part of what we do in terms of the broadcasting deals, that when we reach our ambition of being in the Premier League and higher, that we're able to kind of meet the requirements that sit within media. But always that we had at the key moments in that design was football first. And this is really, really important, because a number of you speak to me when I'm out around the stadium is how close are the fans going to be to the pitch? How steep is the stadium going to be? So the lens of football in designing the stadium was always key. Where you always start with the field of play. Which pitch are you putting down? So if we're going to be a multi-event stadium that can hold rugby league, NFL, which field of play do you start with? But so when we set the parameter of football first, our football pitch, 105 by 68, was the key starting point. And then from there, we can be flexible. So if we're going to have the Challenge Cup player for rugby league, we've built in flexibility into the stand that some of the seats can retract. But for football, it's as tight as regulations will allow us to be. Close, very, very close. The closest that you can be in terms of regulations before a player runs off and hurts himself, we got around the pitch. So that was key for us in terms of football first. And then obviously, we always speak about the St Andrews atmosphere, having the ability to take that with us, and how do we design in that was enhanced and created this intimidating atmosphere for away fans and for the players. Next. The next design principle for us, which was really, really key, was the stadium being in the heart of the community. So I think a lot of us have been to a number of stadiums around now, and there's a lot of modern designs that are landing in their communities, and they are almost untouchable stadiums. They're kind of like spaceship-esque, landing in their community. You don't feel that you can go there unless it's on match day. For us, we wanted our stadium to land and be part of its community. We wanted to live and breathe every single day. We want people to come and get married there. We want people to I was going to say die, not necessarily die, but maybe have their memorial there. I think you know where I was going with that one. We want people to come and have breakfast there, lunch there, dinner there, stay in a nightclub there. We want people to have celebratory moments there. We want people to come and kick a ball outside. The stadium's got to live and breathe with its community, with its neighborhood, match day, non-match day, and with all the events that we have. And then this is what I think we really want to be part of being heart of the community. We want our stadium to be inclusive and accessible. And if we really want to be world class, world leading in these two areas of our design principles. And then I've been in Birmingham now for 2.5 years, working with Tom and the group, and you are a unique group in Birmingham, and so we really want to keep that, and so in our design we put it into the design principles that this thing has got to be uniquely Birmingham. When you pan back that Champions League picture of the Alliance in Bayern Munich Stadium, you know it's the Alliance Stadium. When we pan back from ours, we're going to know it's Birmingham City's football club stadium, and it's Birmingham City. You're going to know that, I promise you. It's going to be iconic, it's going to be bold, it's going to reflect who we are, it's going to reflect of where we're going. And then areas of sustainability. This area is very important, but it's going to help us drive efficiency in environmental, social, commercial. Obviously, our stadium, you've heard Jeremy talk about it now, we're bursting at the seams here. We need it to be commercial, and in addition to being commercial, it's got to operate on non-match day. It's got to be 365-day stadium. It's got to have the ability to drive partnerships. We will have circa 50 million people going past on trains every single year. We'll have another 10 million people going on planes over top of the stadium every single year. It's a lot of people that we have the ability to sell to and to drive partnerships with. And then connected. This has been public so far. Tom and the Nighthead team have done a wonderful job of building momentum and getting investment and fixing it. Tom was very, very clear that unless we got investment into fixing our transport, we know how tough it is for you coming here on match days. If we didn't fix that, we weren't going to build and develop the site that we've been acquiring over time for the new stadium, because you're not going to have a great experience if you come there and you have to fight for 3 hours to get to the stadium, of which we've been very, very successful in getting that investment to date. This is now going into some of the technical specifications of what we're doing. So I'm going to talk you through a little bit more detail on those. So I think you've heard a number of different numbers, 60,000, 62,000, 61,000, etc. Don't get too caught up on the number, because when you design a stadium, we've got multiple events. When we run a concert, we're going to have 78,000. When we have a football match, it's going to be somewhere in the region of 62,000. The reason that we established the 60,000, okay, that is the point of which we can run any single event that we want other than the World Cup final. Okay, so that's why we established that number as the base minimum. The bold design will drive the bold design. It'll be 61,932. It'll be some number that we'll land up with finally when we get into that detailed design. But our ambition is to be able to run every event that we possibly can other than the World Cup final, because if England or United Kingdom wins the World Cup in our lifetime, then we know where that will be, and it'll probably be at Wembley. Yeah, so we didn't need to jump to that level of ambition. This is where we wanted to place ourselves. Retractable hybrid pitch gives us the flexibility to run different events. We have 3 fan zones already designed into the space in there around. One thing's telling you about the 3 fan zones. Our fan zones here circa get about 3,000 people coming in before the game. This will have 12 to 15,000 people in and around the stadium, of where you can come and enjoy yourselves on non-match day, match day. It's not just going to be open in my temporary tent. It'll be much more permanent than that when we develop it. Other areas that I want to pick up on is retractable roof. Okay, this is key. The acoustics, the atmosphere that I spoke about, that we take from St Andrews to here, we've been looking at some really cool things around how we acoustically enhance. So we're already designing into the roof line the ability in our home ends to bounce the sound off down onto the pitch. We've got acoustic dampening over the away ends, so it bounces back into them. Okay, and then we also have to consider, which is really, really difficult, is when Taylor Swift or Coldplay come and play here, the noise that they want to create needs to go out the stadium, but in football we want it to bounce in on the stadium. So we're looking at different designs in the roofline of how that is able to happen. So that's the level of detail that we're already into in the design and how we enhance your experience and the football team on the pitch. Other areas here is, obviously I've spoken about the 365 year-round activity, heart of the community, 2 home fan walls. A lot of you, when I've been out, can we have an end like the Kop or like Tottenham Stadium? So we've given you 2 of those because we think that's a great idea. But we will be the closest that it's absolutely possible to do to the pitch. And then in our design, we're just over half a degree steeper than the Spurs and the Everton Stadium. So we're right at the max before you kind of like topple down. No, I'm joking. We're not at that level. But we are slightly steeper than theirs. And so that allows us to kind of get even closer, allows our fans to feel even closer to the pitch. And then we'll have best-in-class athlete official media areas. We can guarantee that as we kind of move through the process. Right, I'd like to now share with you, so those were all the design principles that we took forward on your behalf and included into the design brief that they have designed into the stadium. But at the start of the process, with all the architects that came in, we set a vision for them, for the sports quarter and for the stadium design. And I'd like to read that to you because I think it's really, really important that you get a feel for what we're trying to create at the sports quarter, because it's more than just a stadium. So, creating a new global destination and a place to call home. Every great city has a place that is recognized as iconic, that draws both attention and admiration. A place that delivers opportunity and joy in equal measures. The process of a city being elevated to greatness on the global stage happens on the rarest of occasions. Excitement is building as now is that time for Birmingham. East Birmingham is the location, and the visionary sports quarter is the inspiration that will drive transformation. Birmingham has a rich and storied history. It was the catalyst for the Industrial Revolution. Its men and women changed the world with their curiosity, intellect, innovation, and penchant for hard work. Now it is to lead in a new revolution, one where moral ambition and stunning architecture collide to create new ways of living and collaborating, where everyone from the richly diverse and inclusive community has the opportunity of progression. The sports quarter's social value will be experienced by today's generation and all those that follow, with new living and working spaces cost-effectively constructed, benefiting from the emphasis on sustainable materials and know-how, where the community will flow through open green areas that inspire, play, and wellness. Learning facilities created to build new, relevant skills for employment, driving economic advancement, and most importantly, a place to call home that respects the heritage of the local community in East Birmingham and celebrates the wonderful future that lies ahead, a place to be proud of. At its heart will be a modern-day, accessible coliseum, a sporting venue that will stand tallest in the city, visible for many miles around and permanent home to the football club that bears its name, Birmingham City. It'll be a beacon of excellence for Birmingham on the global stage, attracting the very best sporting and entertainment events. Constantly in the media spotlight, it is the place where the world's best will want to perform, and experience seekers across the globe shall have it at their must-visit lists. It is where the greatest sporting and academic minds will study and work, breaking new ground in performance, nutrition, health, injury prevention, and recovery. And to the local community, it'll be a place they are proud of, where they feel invigorated, where they want to meet with family and friends to socialize. A 365-day-per-year location with living well at its core. The city of Birmingham will be the story, and the sports quarter will be the inspiration that takes it, and all the people who live and work in it to new heights. This is transformation. This is opportunity. This is the Sports Quarter. So that's what we set out for, and I want you to try and think about that, and I want you to try and remember some of the words that we had in there, and I want you to try and remember some of the design principles that we had, so that when we show you the stadium in a few weeks' time, that you can see how it evolved and how it came out of what our vision was set to achieve. So moving forward, I want you to be aware that we are absolutely committed to including you in the further development. So in terms of the master plan development that we're working on, which is the whole site that I showed you in the sketch in the start, as of Monday, we start engaging with the local neighborhood around the site that we're acquiring, and we're doing a series of 4 workshops with them. We then will move into public exhibitions, physical exhibitions, that start to talk about the Sports Quarter and what we can do to enhance the neighborhood through the Sports Quarter. And those will continue through November into next year as we develop that out. In terms of the stadium specifically, we announced, I wrote this slide last week, we announced the stadium on Tuesday, and so we are developing some of the way that we communicate the concept in the stadium to you and into a much broader audience through November, about 3/4 of the way through, so about 3 weeks' time. And then straight after that in December, we're going to start running fan groups around what it is that that you would like and how you engage with the design, and the architects will have so many questions around what do you want to take and how do you want it to feel and what noise do you want and where do you want concessions, etc. Lots and lots of details. And it won't all just be one session. We'll continue with that from December right through until we finish the design in stage 3, ready for planning at the back end of summer, in getting into that level of and getting into the detail of each one of the designs, and we will share each one of those components as they focus on their areas as they develop. Okay, so that's me for tonight, and sharing kind of everything that we're doing on Stadium Sports Quarter. I'd like to hand over to Ellen.
Thank you, Nick. I particularly liked the expression on the face of the manager at the mention of acoustic dampening and enhancement. That's quite fun, isn't it? I believe that I'm talking for each and every one of us, both here in the room and, of course, watching on from home as well. And I can't say enough how excited we are to see the stadium come into light and, of course, the Sports Quarter around it. Now it gives me a great pleasure to welcome to the stage our chairman. Last night he was in the White Hart pub and then in Deepdale in Preston, of course, with the fans. Tonight he's here in Club 111. So please put your hands together and welcome to the stage our club chairman, Tom Wagner.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate everyone taking the time to come out. I don't have a presentation or any prepared remarks. My ADD is just going to take us wherever we decide to go tonight. We'll leave tons of time for Q&A. Myself, Jeremy, Nick, Andrew Shanahan will be happy to answer any questions other than football strategy and player selection, which is Chris's job, and we will not be chatting about that tonight. But on that topic, what I will say is that one, I'm very, very comfortable with respect to the performance that we've put forward thus far, where the club stands as it relates to our position in the table, what we've seen on the pitch, and where I think we will go from here. We're back in the championship. We've got a new squad. We've got a manager who's first time in the championship, and I like what I'm seeing because I like the process that's going on behind the scenes, and I like what goes into selection. I also like the fact that I think it would be fair to say that we are as data forward a club as exists anywhere in European football. We're very, very heavily focused on data and analysis, with the more important piece being the analysis as opposed to the data, and we're fortunate to have a manager who embraces it, understands it, knows how to use it, and I shudder to think where we'll be, in a very short period of time, because every week it seems like we're getting better and better in how we think about the use of data and how it's enhancing our ability to make really interesting decisions, not only as it relates to how we select players in the transfer window or how we select them for a particular match, but how we think about strategy. And I promise you, we will be well ahead of the competition before very long. I'm excited, I'm confident, I'm comfortable, and that's all I have to say on that. So there's nothing to worry about. Second thing, to talk about quickly is, why are we building this giant stadium in the sports quarter? We've spent a lot of time thinking about what generates success on the pitch, and we've talked about it as it relates to revenue. Yes, there are high revenue clubs that stumble and have bad seasons. Oftentimes it comes because of poor decision making with respect to the application of that spending, right? The money they generate is spent poorly. Could be any one of a number of different reasons. Could be hubris, could be a lack of attention, could be lack of data and analysis, could be, any one of a number of different things, bad culture. What I think we have here is an extraordinary amount of momentum and a process around which how we approach decision making that I don't think will fail us in the long term. So I think there'll be a very high correlation between better revenues and better performance. When we look at the sports quarter and what we're building there between the stadium, the arena, the women's pitch, and we didn't talk much about the housing, the office space, and the hotel, that's all club revenue, every bit of it. And the stadium design that you will see on November 20th, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute, is probably the most advanced stadium design I've ever seen from a revenue generating perspective. And that does not mean higher ticket prices. We're modeling ticket prices in the new stadium that are the same as what you pay today, right now, this season, for general admission tickets adjusted for inflation only. Okay? Now, there'll be 3 general admission seats in the stadium. What that means is that we will maintain the fabric of our fan base and the atmosphere that our fans bring to the match day experience. We want the exact same thing that we have today. Okay? And it's funny, we get a lot of questions about, are you going to change? Like when Andrew and I go to an away game and wear pom-pom hats and hoodies and trainers and drink pints with you, it's because we actually like it. Like, we actually enjoy it. It's not like a thing we do. That's what we want to do. Like, I didn't sit in a car yesterday for 5 hours to go to Preston and back because I want to put on a show. It's because I actually enjoy it. We don't want that to change. That's why we believe in English football, right? It's because of that atmosphere. It's why people like it and want to watch it. And so it's very important to us to maintain that. Andrew's been adamant in this respect. And by the way, the fast pour beers and the 2-pint beers, you can thank Andrew Shanahan, because it's because of his incredible focus on this that all of that has happened, because we get it. Like, we actually understand what's important to a core subset of our fans. At the same time, we want to attract new fans. And it's incumbent on all of you who are here in this room and all of you who are watching to make sure that you keep that going and educate those who will come to join this club in the years ahead on what it means to be a Blue Nose and what it means to be a true Blues supporter, okay? And I hope that you take that very seriously, because if we maintain that atmosphere and we grow it, we'll be completely unstoppable. And when we think about when I say that the stadium is a revenue generator, when you see the design, use your imagination as to how that could be activated for the purposes of commercial partnerships. It's going to be absolutely mind-blowing, and I promise you, you've never seen anything like it. There will probably never be anything as true to a home ground and a home city as that stadium will be to Birmingham and the site upon which it's built. It's a lot of thought and passion and creativity went into it. So what does that mean? Well, if we fast forward to when that stadium opens and that arena opens and all of those other elements open, we'll be a club that, if we were still in the championship, we'd be doing probably $150 million plus a year in revenue. just under 3 times what we're doing today, or 50% more than the top end parachute club. We'd have to be the dumbest human beings on the planet with that much revenue not to be able to get promoted. So whether we're already in the Prem when it's finished or we go a year later, it's going to happen. Okay, that's why and the team at Knight is not worried about this. I also happen to believe that with Chris leading us and Craig, directing football and how our processes are set up, that it's going to come a lot sooner than that. I have great confidence in it, but don't worry about like the club running into difficulty or us being idiots with respect to how we're planning this process. Like there's a very thoughtful approach behind it. If we're in the Prem and all of this opens, we'll be knocking on the door of the big 6 in revenue, right? We'll be somewhere 6th, 7th in total revenue when this is all open. So that's why when I make comments about the football pyramid, I'm protective of the biggest clubs, because that is where we're going, and that is who we are. And so you got to understand when I say I want to protect those best brands, I'm not solely talking about those who are already there. I'm talking about us, because that's where we're going. And I believe that wholeheartedly, because this is a big club with a huge opportunity. There isn't another club in Europe that has the ability to build something this big that will serve a club as big as ours in one location, centrally located, inside the city limits, embedded in a neighborhood, with all of the things that I just spoke about, plus the men's and women's first team training pitches and the academy. So there's been a bunch of questions about the academy. I'll touch on this one last thing, and then I think we'll just go right to Q&A, because ultimately you don't want to sit and be talked to. You want to be able to ask a lot of questions. Imagine a year from now when there's a model kind of the size of this half of the stage sitting in our academy entranceway. And you're a parent who's bringing an 8, 12, 14, maybe 16-year-old in to think about coming to the Blues Academy with your child, to pass them off. Okay, well, you know it's a Category 1 academy, because that's where we are and that's where we will stay. So you know the quality of your football education will be fantastic. But sitting in front of you is a model that if your child stays with that program, that's where they'll be practicing and ultimately where they'll be playing. How, as a reasonable person, do you choose anywhere else? Because by the time your child is at the pinnacle of their career as a youth, entering into, hopefully, a professional career, they'll be in the best facility, on the best ground, immediately adjacent to the best stadium, playing for one of the best clubs in Europe. That is how we rebuild an academy that was left dormant for a decade and underinvested in for a long period of time. All of these things tie together. And we've said this repeatedly. It's not one thing that we do to improve the club. It's every single thing. Every single thing. We apologize for the state of the facilities here. There are some things we simply cannot fix. We can't rip out all of the plumbing. We can't replace some of the utilities that come in here. But what we can do is plan for a future that properly reflects where this club should be and where I know we're headed. So that's really all I have to say in kind of opening remarks this evening. I think what we'll do is move to Q&A. We've got a bunch of stuff coming up, and then we'll take some from the room. Is that how we're doing it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So thank you, Tom, firstly. We're going to do a little bit of a shuffle around and also invite Jeremy back on stage as well for the Q&A section, which I know you've all been waiting for, as we are going to try to get through as many questions as we can. We also have a set as well that have been submitted, of course, through the week via the app and those from the floor here in Club 111. In addition to Tom and Jeremy, of course, we have the following members of our senior leadership team, and Tom and Jeremy will direct some of the questions towards them as they're best placed to answer what you might have up your sleeve. So the team that we have with us tonight is made up of Director of Football, Craig Gardner. We have Chief Strategy Officer, Grant Brokenshire. Chief Financial Officer Mark Smith is with us. Chief Commercial Officer Stephen Haynes. We have Chief Fan Experience Officer John Clark as well. Rich Carpenter, our Director of Operations, is here as well. Mike Rigg, our Academy Technical Director. Anthony Isherwood, the director of the Birmingham City Foundation, and Chris Davies, of course, our men's first team manager. So we have some club staff as well who will be out around the crowd with roaming microphones. If you ask a question in the room, please wait for one of our staff to get the microphone to you. Then please state your name, stand up so we can all see you, and then hand the microphone back to the club staff as well, so we can get through as many questions as possible. Before we go to the floor and give our staff time to get all set up, one question that has been submitted online to start, if that's okay. It relates to player recruitment, and it's come up a fair bit. Tom, it's your choice, of course, of who we direct this one to. But the question is, can you explain how decisions are taken on which players to buy, and why more wasn't spent in summer to strengthen the team and squad in key areas?
Oh, I'm going to take the second half. Craig and Chris are going to answer the first half. So as it relates to what we can spend, there's a member of the staff. He's our CFO. His name is actually Dr. Doom, because what he does is, am I wrong? That is, thank you. It is his name.
We don't even call him doctor. We don't call him doctor anymore. It's just
Doom.
Doom.
And the reason is he takes a very conservative approach with respect to our forward financials. So we spent as much as we could have in the summer. And remember, the press likes to point out transfer fees. They guess. They typically don't know what the number is. Rarely, I think they do. And then they ignore player wages, okay? When you bring somebody in on a free, they know you're getting him on a free, and a lot of times that player is expensive from a wage perspective and wants a multi-year contract. So what looks like a bargain could, over the course of a contract, be rather expensive, and what looks like it's expensive with respect to a player transfer fee might be quite a bargain as a result of what the wages are over time. So a lot of factors go into this. We spent what we could. We have a very, very high-quality squad, and I'm very comfortable with the process of recruitment, but Craig and Chris, why don't you guys just talk through a little bit how that all works?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So what we do is we've created a football committee with robust processes, as Tom's just saying, around recruitment. Everything's very heavily data-driven. In that football committee, we have CFO, we have managers, we have head of recruitment data, head of recruitment. So we have all the experienced people in there. And then we obviously, off the back of that, we produce a top 5, so top 55 for every single position. So it ends up being a top 5 for position-specific areas. And then it's over to Chris to pick that final piece of the puzzle that he feels is the best player in that area. So hopefully that's really crystal clear on how we recruit players, and it's a team. As we don't isolate anybody. We're all in it together. If Chris, you want to add anything to that? What probably missed?
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, I'll stand up so you can see me. Yeah, from my point of view, it's a very good process. I think as a football manager, you always want to feel like you're making the final decision, obviously, on a player coming in. So that's absolutely the case, 100%. I think roughly, including loans, since I've been the manager here, there's probably been about 30 players that have come in, which is a lot. So there's been, and you can't get them all right, but I think we've done a pretty good job. If you compare it to, generally in football, the amount you get right to the amount you get wrong, I think we're doing a great job. I think from my point of view, there's the data, which is important to look at because it's very objective, because you see things and it's very much your feeling and your opinion. So it's good to look at the data and say, well, they're strong and that flags up, but then there's your kind of your intuition, your football feel, how you see and view a player. So that all comes into the pot, and there's a few people involved, obviously. I speak to Craig about 7,000 times a day, and I have done since I've been a manager. So we're always on the phone talking about things, especially during the transfer window. And I think the process is really good. And how we do it. And the other big thing that we look at is obviously the character, because there's one thing that you don't see, but we put a lot of emphasis on that. I do, because I only want players here that are going to actually run around and care about playing for the club. They're going to behave in the right way, be the right type of players to represent this club. So that's a big part of how we look at it as well. So that's the recruitment process, how we work it. So very good.
Thanks, guys. I have to tell you, we're very, very lucky to have Craig and Chris, leading us in this regard. They're incredibly collaborative, very, very open to creating a dialogue around the process. And as you all know, we're first and foremost focused on process here, and I think the guys do an exceptional job, really do.
Brilliant first answer. So let's go out to the floor, and I guess raise your hands if you have a question. Anyone to kick us off?
So Paul Hipkiss, in the new stadium, are we looking to replicate, I'm a season ticket holder of 30 years, so are we looking to replicate the seats that we have in St Andrews as best as we can in the new stadium?
Well, there would be 62,000 choices.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think yes and no. So what we're trying to do is accomplish a couple of different things with respect to the stadium design. One is you want to create a really, really loud, robust environment. So that means that there'll be very, very steep kind of walls of fans at the end. And then we'll have tiering throughout along the sides of the pitch, particularly in the center areas where we can sell a decent amount of hospitality. And so I think you're going to have a lot of different choices. I will tell you that I toured the Everton Stadium, and I stood in the last row at the end on their steepest stand. We will have two that are steeper. And the view from that spot was exceptional. It's so steep that when you're, and I'm not exaggerating, when you're looking at the goal that's nearest you, it's there. And when you're at the front of the top tier and you're sat or standing, you can't see a single fan in front of you. It feels like you're in the front row. And there's probably 40 rows below you, or 30 rows, whatever it is. So I think, people shouldn't get too focused on, well, I'm in this section now and I want to be in the same section going forward. You'll certainly have that opportunity because there's so many seats. But I also think you should be cognizant of, well, what's the experience that I want, right? What do I enjoy in a game? Do I want a GA Plus where I can have a meal beforehand and go to a place afterwards to hang out? Do I want to be, in a beer-drenched area where we're singing and standing in safe standing zones most of the time? Or, do we want something totally different? There'll be lots of options there. And the goal is to provide all of those different options so that everyone gets a bit of what they want. But the overriding objective is loud and feels like St Andrews just twice as big.
On to the next one. We have one at the back.
Yeah, Mark Garrett. It's a question for Nick. Nick, I can't see you because there's a post in front of me, so apologies. The scale of ambition that you presented today is probably going to be the largest planning application this city's ever seen in its history. How confident are you that Birmingham City Council's planning department is, one, got the capability to understand it, and two, will be able to say yes? So three, will you be able to help them on the process?
Yeah.
We've been working with the council through the whole process of the master plan for the last year, and I do think that they can handle it. I think they've come a long way, Tom, from the first meeting that we had, which was sharing the ambition, which was a little bit like tumbleweed going through the meeting room with their eyes popping out their head in terms of the size of the ambition. But they really have and are embracing the size of the ambition. They most certainly see the opportunity for the city, and we have positioned it like that. This is not just a Birmingham City Football Club initiative. This is a city initiative, and definitely, as I said, and you go back to that vision, is putting the city on the stage. I do think they get bad press, the council, or the planning department, but I'm also aware that they have. I think they've been in a lot of rooms with a lot of wannabe wealthy people with lots of great ideas, and they've kind of seen a lot of schemes come onto their table that have never kind of materialized, and they absolutely 100% know that this is real, and so you have their full attention, and so you get their full resources. So when you engage them and they know it's real, the ears prick up and the process starts, and they're definitely very, very supportive, so it's a bit different.
Yeah, I think the second element is that we've been in front of national government now. I've flown over so many times for meetings, I can't even remember how many it is. You've got Rachel Reeves that has mentioned this I think, half a dozen times in national level speeches, specifically referring to our project and the Sports Quarter. It was a headline of the Regional Investment Summit yesterday, which first time the Regional Investment Summit was ever hosted outside of London, and they chose Birmingham for the first one to do it, and that was, we think, because of the Sports Quarter, and in the keynote opening address from Rachel Reeves, it was the first thing that was mentioned, or the most prominent thing that she mentioned. So we have every confidence that this has got the appropriate attention. And look, we secured, 2.4 billion pounds of funding for transport, and that's great for the stadium. I mean, we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but that's great for the entirety of this part of the city. There's no public transport from the neighborhood in which we sit into the center of Birmingham, which is just mind-boggling. Adderley Park Station is, not even fit for any purpose, never mind moving what will ultimately be 100,000 people in and out of that site on a match day. And what I mean by that is you'll have lots of people coming in for lots of different things, not simply attending the match. There'll be housing and offices and all kinds of other things there. So, just imagine a Blues Villa match on a Tuesday night when there's also happens to be a concert scheduled and everyone's leaving their offices and going back to their homes. I mean, it's just going to be the wildest, craziest atmosphere ever. So we need...
That's one way of describing it.
Yeah. Lots of fencing. But there, that's going to be that'll be a station that handles, Andrew, what % of the traffic will go of the 25% will just come through Adderley Park. We'll have the surface lines. I mean, we pushed hard on this, and we got everything we asked for. So we have every confidence.
We're going to take some questions that have been sent in online. Nick, I think keep hold of the mic for the next couple. We've already mentioned already, but just refresh the memories of those watching online. When will the new stadium designs and imagery be shared? And the second part of that question is 2031 a realistic
2031?
time on 2031? 31.
No, it won't be 2031. It'll be 2030.
Please, Lord.
I think the budget will allow for fast-track planning. That's my hope. We'll all see in November.
Definitely not sure.
November 20th will be an event to unveil the stadium, and the way that we're going to do it will be that everyone will see it at the same time. So this isn't going to be like a giant event in St. Andrews necessarily. It's really going to be something that really focusing on driving commercial revenues. A lot of partners that we want to be supportive of the project. But we'll have a live stream, and everybody will see it together at the first time. There'll be no press images leaked beforehand. There's not going to be stuff out there. Ignore what you see online. That will be the first time that anybody sees it other than those who are part of the design process.
Although some of the stadiums that the fans have designed on AI have been...
They look pretty good.
Brilliant.
They're not as good as what the real one looks like, though, is it?
100%.
And in terms of the completion?
2030.
2030. You heard it here first.
Anyone, who here has built something, right? If you build it and you say, I want it done in 6 months, it gets done in 9, right? So we got to stick to our date, and there's no reason why we believe that it's a 3-year build, and we believe that we can get planning done in 2 or less. So 2 plus 3 is 5.
Another thing that we've touched on, just but to go a little bit deeper on it, will the new stadium include some of Birmingham's history and heritage in the design? Can you pick out maybe, Nick, some of the things that you've highlighted?
No, we cannot. Nice try. I mean, the answer is yes, but no examples.
Not yet.
Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
No, that's a lot of the workshops that we got to do is to understand exactly what you want to take, what you would like there, what you'd like to respect. So that's exactly the process that we're running through. Of course, it's easy for me to stand up and say every single one of the stones we're going to take across. We're going to think about, is it tilt and go across? I think that's where you were kind of referencing in terms of stands. But all of those things we really want to listen and work with you to understand exactly what it is that we take and make happen for you. Obviously, a statue needs to kind of get lifted and taken as well.
Nick, you were saying you wanted an exact replica of the main stand, if I remember correctly.
On a plinth in my office, yeah.
So we'll take one more before we come back to the room. When we go back to the football side of things, is it realistic to still expect us to be challenging at the top of the table? Do you have to revise your expectations given the start to the season?
Yes and no. Yes and no. We're 3 points out of the playoffs, and we're just starting to hit our stride. Chris, Craig, anything to add there?
Yeah, I think from my point of view, I reiterate what Tom said. I think we've had a bit of everything to the start this season. We've experienced a lot coming back to the championship. Some highs and lows, some good days and not so good days. But what you can see with this league is so tight, and it'll probably be one of the tightest championships there's been for a long time. What we've got to do is first and foremost be competitive in every match, and I do think we will grow. I think you get the feel. I definitely get the feeling that we're growing week by week. New players coming in, settling into a new club, forming a togetherness and a spirit, and we've got quality as well. So I think we as time goes on will grow. So we have to keep believing it's possible because it is. You can see what this championship is like. It's not going to be easy. That's what I always say. It's never easy in there, but we're in there, and we've shown that we can compete with the very best. So we just got to keep pushing on.
Yeah, we have a great manager. We're lucky to have him, and he's doing a really good job.
So on that, back to the floor we go. Should we go down here?
Hi guys, Chris Golding from the We Are Birmingham podcast. This is more for Craig, Chris, maybe Mike as well. Tom mentioned the pathway of bringing youngsters through the training ground and seeing the model of the new stadium and saying that's where you're going to be playing. In recent years, we've obviously had, through the difficulties that we've had with getting players in, we've had to bring players through. We've had to use them from the academy. Last couple of seasons, we've been blessed with riches, being able to go out and recruit players, seen less of our own players coming through. Is that pathway still clear for the young players? And is it something that they've got that's an obvious pathway? Thank you.
Do you want me to lead you on to start? Yeah. Hi, Mike Grigg. I think the easiest way to describe this is 15 years ago, the Premier League introduced what was called EPPP, which is the Elite Player Performance Plan that all 92 clubs could apply for, and they had the categorisation. It's probably safe to say for 13 of them years, we've just not invested in our youth system. The last 2 years, we've had exceptional investment, both in staff and facilities, in order to get us what is called best with best. So we're now at the level where we're competing with Arsenal, Manchester City, Chelsea. The challenge with youth development, unlike going into a transfer window and season on season, it's long term. It is difficult, it is a challenge. We are constantly talking about recruiting and working exceptionally hard at our pre-academy. So that is, working with 6 and 7 year olds, and the competition for 6 and 7 year olds is fierce. I was in a training ground the other night, and we were talking about one of our 6 and 7 year old players who another club is looking to try and relocate the whole family closer to them in order to get them into their pre-academy. So it's safe to say that the club is committed, despite us getting relegated. It didn't stop. The investment carried on, and it could have been a very easy opportunity for the club to say, let's hold back an investment, let's put Cat 1 and our youth development off a couple of seasons, but we didn't. So we went into League One, but we actually went up a level from youth development, so the commitment is there without a doubt. Getting players into the first team is always going to be a challenge regardless. We do that by design, which is what we're trying to do now, or you do that when you're a distressed club. And I don't think any of us want to become, that distressed club again. So it's a long road, and with the standards in the first team rising exceptionally, it's our challenge as an academy. It's my job as the technical director to raise the bar and get the players through. But there's no quick fix. But there's certainly the intention and the commitment.
I think on top of that as well, we know the Cat 1 programme is a really difficult programme, and we're playing the likes of Chelsea's, your Arsenal's, your Manchester United's. So we also see that winning is development. So when we're developing the players from, and it might not be from 21s into the first team, it might be from 10s into the 12s and the 12s into the 14s and the 15s into the 16s, and your best 16s going to your 18s and your best 18s going to your 21s. Because what you're doing then, you're creating assets, and them assets in a couple of years will be around the first team. So that's the plan. That's what we want to do. That's the story of what we're trying to tell. We are going to invest in younger players. That's, again, I probably shouldn't say this, but we're probably looking at ways as how we can bring data into that as well, into the academy. So there's lots of things that we're doing. We're looking at ways how we can be ahead of the game in the academy. So there's lots of plans in the pipeline.
Brilliant. We'll stick with the data theme of things, and a question that's come in through the app. We signed 12 players during the summer transfer window. Some of them have not played many minutes. Is your data-led recruitment strategy working the way you hoped?
Actually, Andrew, why don't you take a stab at this initially? Andrew Shanahan works very closely with the data team, and then we'll let Craig and Chris talk about how they use it.
Yeah, the strategy is working as we had. Sorry, I'll stand up. The strategy is working as we had hoped and planned, and the way it actually works is we look at all of the data that comes in. The players come with a rating, and we look at how that plays across the team, and we forecast the season. We forecast the results based on the lineups that we look at. And what we do is there's generally about around 200 minutes there's statistical significance, and so we look at kind of how every player is progressing based on how we looked at that recruiting strategy. And what we're seeing is everything is progressing along the lines of what we had hoped for at this point in the season. And what we're seeing is and then above the data, and what Chris has talked about and Craig has talked about, is seeing the team gel and come together. And so then momentum comes in and can change the outcomes with the data in a positive manner, and that's what we're starting to see develop. But the data is integral in kind of all of the decisions that both Craig and Chris are making, and we're making sure that that's available and constantly iterating and adding new features to it in order to give them more tools and more capabilities to make their decisions.
Yeah, so on top of that, and going back to the processes that we spoke about earlier, so if we're looking to recruit a centre-half, we put in the player profile of a centre-half and what we see in a centre-half, obviously being able to head the ball, being able to run, being able to turn, can he take the ball, what's he good technically, one-on-one situations, etc. We can go on forever. So them profiles go through the system that spits out, I don't know, probably 200-300 centre-backs, and then we go through the processes of them 200-300 centre-backs, which then obviously we bring it down. If we're looking at a certain type of centre-half, it might even spit out someone like Van Dijk, and we know we can't afford Van Dijk, so then you adjust the profiles, and then sort of it comes out to where we're aligned with Birmingham City Football Club. And then it drops down to your top fives, and then we obviously produce that and then pass that over to Chris. So we do that for sort of every single position. On top of that, we run the simulations on how we see this player going into the team, and where, again, the team will finish in the table across previous years, etc. So the amount of detail that goes into every single decision, it's not just an off-the-cuff decision, we're going to take this centre-half because we like him. There's so much information and detail that goes into every single decision.
Yeah, I think just to finish off in relation to that, and you can look at it sometimes and say, well, you bring in this player and why aren't they playing enough minutes and stuff. But that's the wonderful thing about the competition within the squad as well, because the players that were here, some of them have elevated themselves in training, their performances, their mentality, because they see and feel the competition coming in as well. So it's not always sort of linear that you bring these players and they're going to play the most minutes. What's important is we've got a competitive squad, we've added quality to it, and I think the players that we have brought in are all on track. There's some that have got off to a quicker start than others, but there's no red flags within there that you'd say he can't play for us. They're all gonna grow as the season goes on.
I would just add one thing to this. We keep saying data, data, data. It's really data analytics that's AI enabled, and we're not going to go into what we're actually doing because we own it. Yeah, Andrew did a good job avoiding that. But Andrew, what are we going to spend this year in electricity on our compute?
We'll spend close to £1 million this year on
just on electricity,
just running the compute that formulates the models. I'm not going to say where it's forecast finishing, but it is scarily accurate when you take in lineups of the entire league and forecast them forward. With the exception, to about 2 places. There's always one team, you'll know this as fans, there's always one team that wildly outperforms, one team that wildly underperforms, and then everybody else, as we've looked at this, and we've looked at 10 years of data, the system now has in it 17 leagues and 10 years of games. So like to put it in perspective, when we want to run a simulation for a lineup, it takes the computer about 60 minutes just to run through all of the iterations. So when it forecasts the season, it'll run 100,000 simulations of the season to kind of predict the outcomes. And the reason that works, and it's interesting, is each game is technically an independent event. And so then we look at each iteration of games and availability.
Right.
So there's a huge amount of data that goes into this. So when we just say we're looking at data, it's not a spreadsheet of numbers.
And what you've started to do is, with the interaction with Craig and Chris, the system is being input with the expertise of the human beings. It's getting really smart, right? It's becoming an increasingly powerful tool. So anyway, we got the data thing. We're good.
Some brilliant intel there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Martin King, North Wales. So how accurate was on last year's data?
Scarily accurate. It was really accurate.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We were accurate.
That is insight that you won't get anywhere else. Taking a look at ticket prices and affordability, another question that has come in on the app: what assurances can you offer to fans with regards future ticket prices? Should supporters be concerned about big increases in season ticket prices next year? Now there's a waiting list, and will you freeze them next season? So a lot of questions in one there.
Good. Okay.
I mean, as we said earlier, the modelling we're doing for the new stadium is based on the current season ticket prices adjusted for inflation. We do not want to price out our core fans, the ones who've been loyal, the ones who've gone through the sorrows and the joys, or is it the other way around? And, that isn't part of how we're growing revenue. We're growing revenue by people coming to the games more, by people coming earlier, by buying the food and beverage, the retro shirts, the hospitality, the stadium tours. And we'd rather get to the point where we make our products so good that our fans want to choose to spend their money with us rather than us demanding more from them for the same.
Yeah. And when we first came into one of our very early meetings 2 years ago, we talked to the leadership team and we said, look, we're really not competing against the other clubs in football. We're competing against the Apples and Netflixes and YouTubes and pick your other favorite, the video game makers, because we're competing for all of your time. And you have lots of choices in your entertainment options, and we want to provide something that is compelling, irrespective of, simply looking at it as a football match. And so we need a really good product. We've been more focused on improving the product than we are on raising the price.
Just to stick with the online stream questions, it's been over 2 years since Nighthead took over. When do you plan to complete the full purchase, and what influence, if any, do the old ownership have?
I don't think we've done a fan forum match event or other in-person thing that's been attended by anyone other than the leadership team and the Nighthead folks. So you can draw whatever conclusions you want from that. And the answer to the first question is soon. Very soon. Very soon. Soon.
We will head back to the floor quickly, just for another, before we go back to the online questions. Anyone, any questions on the foot? One over
Right
there.
there.
Have you had any thoughts on naming the new stadium? Like Tottenham Stadium hasn't had a name or doesn't have a name, I think.
Oh, we'll have a name. Yeah. And it will go to the highest bidder.
A very high bidder.
Very direct answer there. So we'll go to some online questions, and they're about transport, which obviously we've had a really good explanation of already this evening. But what is being done to ensure that visiting St Andrews isn't as difficult as it currently is, travelling to the stadium, parking cars, heavy traffic? These all remain big issues for supporters. And just to add another one onto that, what is being done with police to resolve the issue of car stripping in the area?
Okay, so...
Car stripping.
Sorry?
You want to do car stripping?
Yeah, I'll do car stripping. For the Millwall game, there will be new bobbies on the beat, marshalling some of the areas which are the most targeted where those issues have happened. And the West Midlands Combined Authority have been fabulous with us, and the Police Commission have been working with us in order to be able to solve some of these problems. And so there are also some trials which we are trying to get underway to relieve the congestion at the islands on the ring road, because that's where everything bottles up, because everyone just causes gridlock. And so the West Midlands Combined Authority have been fabulous with us in terms of supporting us and trying to address these issues. But for the Millwall game, there will be police on the street in the areas where incidents like this often occur.
So two things on the new stadium. One, £2.4 billion from national government for transport. That's going to make a huge difference, not just in relation to our sports quarter, but just throughout the city as a whole, and the West Midlands more broadly. Additionally, the issue with respect to car stripping, there are two ways to solve it. We can use public transport, we can have better parking, we can have more security. All those things will be done. We can also create jobs for the local neighborhood. And that is as big a focus, if not a bigger focus for us. So 16,400 jobs during construction and over 14,000 full-time jobs during the course of the operation of the site. And then there's all the ancillary businesses that will crop up and employ people as a result of doing a project of this size and bringing this many people into that part of the city. So I think that what you'll see is a completely transformed neighborhood looking forward 5 years. And that's going to start as soon as shovels start hitting the ground. The training will start even before that. So our hope is that we transform the entirety of the neighborhood to be a place that is one of economic prosperity as opposed to economic desperation.
So we have a lot more questions coming in from the app and online. The next one is, what is Knighthead's end game with regards to the club, and how will you achieve a return on investment for your shareholders?
So the club is held in our wholly owned, or I should say wholly controlled insurance entity. And it's not like a hedge fund or a private equity fund. There's no end date to it. We don't have to sell anything. The return comes from increasing the revenues, which is how sports franchises or sports clubs are valued. And so as long as we keep driving revenues, the club becomes worth more, and we get to increase the value that it's held at, and that inures to the benefit of our stakeholders in the insurance company. Obviously, getting promoted has a huge impact. Opening the stadium has a huge impact. So don't worry about what money we're making on this. We're good, and we're comfortable, and we've got a good plan.
And you're going nowhere, are you, Tom?
I mean, we think we've got an asset that's got an incredible kind of 10-year future ahead of it and beyond. We're very bullish on sport. We're very bullish on Birmingham. We've got 4 teams in Birmingham, men's and women's football, 5 technically, men's and women's 100, and women's netball. So, we keep making more investments, and people keep asking when we're going to sell. So I don't know how we keep spending a lot of money. We're not going anywhere.
I know this next one is one that you've touched on already, but just to reiterate, your stance on it. Why has the club not invested more in the toilets and kiosks inside the stadium, and what are you doing to improve service levels, speed of service, increasing the choice of food and drink, especially for kids?
Okay, so let's take the speed of service. The speed of service has increased phenomenally since the start of this season. We've put in Disney queues, we've increased the number of taps in, if you take the front fan zone as an example, from 24 taps to 40. We've put queuing systems in all of the curb things. The queue wait times have gone down significantly. We have got a graph which shows the amount of transactions that are happening every single minute from 3 hours before kickoff till 2 hours afterwards. The amount of products which we sell each week it was 38,000 last week. Let me tell you, I can't tell you how much that compares to the other clubs, but it beats them by a long, long way. So the speed of processing the transactions and everything we are doing is exceeding everything else that's happening in football stadiums sort of in this area. In regards to the kiosks, we built the box-to-box and created one of the longest kiosk areas in the stadium. We have done extensive training with everyone who's there on service and improving those. So if you look at last season, we hit a peak where on a Saturday game we couldn't take more than X £1,000. This year we've broken that by 20% because of the speed we've been able to do, the queuing systems, the training and everything else. And as Tom was referring to with Andrew, it is literally incremental improvements all coming together which lift that. So the 2 pints, we do that. We did reduce the number of beers which were sold out there because that increases the rate of sale because we can do all the pre-pours and far more. So there is experts in this area working with us every single day to make sure we are selling all of those things.
Brilliant. Back to the floor for one more question. Do we have anyone who would like to ask a question?
Got to be one.
There we go. Just a touch too slow.
Hi there. When I go to the ballring, there's a certain sports store that really pains me outside Selfridges, I think it is. Would you consider as another revenue stream setting up a store in the city and elsewhere in other markets as well?
Yes.
By the way, if you think seeing that store pains you, because you can see it from, like 30 yards away in any direction, imagine how they're going to feel when there's a stadium you can see from every single place in the city. And I was standing on a hill just outside Broadway, if you know where Broadway is. Is that about 35 miles away?
In the Cotswolds, yeah.
In the Cotswolds. Yeah. And you will see the stadium from there. So, F-E-A. Is that good?
And again, just to answer the question, we are looking at other retail locations. Quite honestly, the city centre one will be losing them money. And the most important thing for us is growing the bottom line. There's no point, growing a whole load of top line if you just end up costing you a bunch of money and you're losing money. So we are looking at other options and how we do that in the most commercially viable way.
Brilliant, thank you. We've already spoken about some of the things that may move with the stadium, and of course there's so many beautiful tributes around this part of the stadium and this part of Birmingham. The next question we have is, the victims of the Birmingham pub bombings deserve to be honoured in the new home. They're part of the city's history. Can you guarantee that there will be some kind of tribute at the Sports Quarter?
Yeah, as as people know, we put up a plaque to remember the lives lost of those people in that terrible, terrible day. And that is on our stadium. And just like the other tribute stones, we will move those to the new stadium and make sure that they are remembered there as they are here.
Brilliant, thank you. I think this is probably our final question. We've spoken about how good social media can be over the course of this evening. One of the ones that I was made aware of, and I thought I lived on social media, but I hadn't seen this. The question is, social media rumours and criticism in the past 2 weeks that there has been online regarding Phil Neumann and Christoph Clara and their relationship. Now, I was not aware of this at all until someone told me today, as well as pressure on the manager. Do players and staff, and I'm sure Chris will probably want to answer this, do they follow these social media trends, and what impact does it have on them?
I mean, look, first of all, after the fight, right? No, Chris, go ahead.
Tell them you're joking on that, Tom.
I'm joking.
If I'm gonna say.
I'm joking.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I hadn't heard that. I mean, one of the good things that I've done is I don't look at social media. I have never, engaged in any of it, so I don't really know what's going on. But if there was a fight between those two, then Neumann wouldn't be standing up right now, because if Clara had a fight with anyone, then he's going to win it, basically. So, no, there's absolutely none of that going on. We have got a great captain, actually, in Clara. He is one of those guys that will tell people to, have high standards and everything day to day. But he's actually one that Neumann's got on well with, obviously, because of the language, and he's helped him settle in. So absolutely no fight. But I would like to see it if there was.
Maybe we can put that on in the stadium and make a bit more money. Can we do that?
We're just going to squeeze in one more question before we get your closing remarks. In your view, what can be done to improve the in-game atmosphere at St Andrews at Knighthead Park? It starts well, but occasionally fades away. Why is that?
No drums. I mean, we really need more drums. No, I'm joking. I know we don't want drums. Come on. I actually think, we were talking about this a little bit. When we're playing aggressively, the fans respond. And everybody recognizes that, and that's great. The game plan doesn't always lend itself to that style of play, and we got to trust that Chris will direct them appropriately there. Equally, when we're loud, they respond, right? And play harder, irrespective of the style that they've been asked to play or the formation they've been asked to play. So I think it's incumbent on us to do this, and I get a lot of shit for my comments at Wrexham at the half for saying, like, let's be a bit louder. We did score right after that, by the way. So that it is important to do that. And by the way, that's what we're trying to preserve as we think about the design of the new stadium. So, we should be more cohesive, louder, more unity, right? We got a good squad. We've got, staff here that really care. We got players that really care. I spent a lot of time with these guys. I'm telling you, they really care. Let's show them that we really care as well and that we have them. And when something goes wrong, like, stop fearing that the inevitable negative outcome. It's not our future, okay? It's not our future. So when we stumble, pick them up and let's see what happens. And I suspect it'll be very good because, since we've invested in the club, on home sellouts, we have one loss, and it was Saturday. And we weren't that loud on Saturday. And when we're loud, we perform exceptionally well. I should say technically two, but I don't count the Newcastle game because that wasn't fair. And we did actually...
League.
Yeah, league games. We did actually draw that game. They just didn't count the goal. So I think that we have an obligation as well. I believe very strongly in that, and I'm going to keep saying it. And unless you all tell me not to, I'm not going to stop saying it. I don't care what any other fans say, but I do care what you say. But I suspect most people agree that we could do better. And so, I'm right there with you. I was there last night and singing as well. So I think it's something that we should all work on.
I agree. And I mean, my closing sort of request to all Blues fans is, this is the time of our lives. I get the privilege and the pleasure of coming into one of my 3 happy places every day and seeing this and trying to help change the club. And sometimes we pinch ourselves because the transformation which we're on and the journey and where we're going, and you wait till see some of the things which you're going to see in the next month. This is the best time of our lives. And the beauty, I think, about Blues as a club, and this is what our commercial partners say to us, is we're all a family. We all pull together and help the foundation. We all raise money and do that when we do the Christmas appeal. Our commercial partners say, we come to you and ask you, can we do this? And the answer is, whatever the question is, the answer is yes. And so it is, this is the time for us all to come together and go, let's all do our bit. And if the bit for the fans is travelling away to Middlesbrough on a cold, wet night, or, making sure we're loud even when, we're not in the ascendancy in the game, every little bit we can do helps this journey. And, in the first day when it was announced that Knighthead were taking over, Tom wrote an open letter to the fans. And he said, this wasn't a journey we want to go on alone. And this is for all of us to come together. And so this is the time of our lives. Let's make sure we all do every last bit we can do to do that. And, as I said earlier, the atmosphere in this place, when St Andrews is rocking, there is no better place like this. And so, that is our sort of plea and our request. And what you do for us is amazing. How you've supported us in the last 2 years and all the revenue growth is unbelievable. But let's just see how we can just do a little bit more to help.
I think that's perfect sentiment to end on. So thank you both. We really appreciate your time. And of course, thank you to everyone who's joined us here in Club 111 on Blues Plus, Facebook, YouTube, via the app. We appreciate the part that you have all played in the evening and, of course, moving the club forward as well. Thank you to Chris and to our senior leadership team and, of course, as we've already said, to Jeremy and Tom. For those of you here in the room, tea and coffee will be served shortly. And for those of you watching at home, thank you once again and good night.
Thank you. Really well done.